Hey Grace Church, my name is Josh. Welcome to the weekly for the week of August 4th. Today we are talking about Sabbath rest. In Greek mythology, there is a character named Sisyphus who is punished by Zeus, and his punishment is he has to roll a rock up a hill for eternity. And when he gets to the top, the rock falls back down, and he continues to do this forever. And that has become like the modern icon for what it's like to be alive, constantly working but never finished. And the author of Hebrews comes to us and says there is something available in Jesus that can set you free from this modern achievement-based, performance-based, work-based life. And it's the opportunity of Sabbath rest. So in Hebrews chapter 4, the author weaves together the creation story, the Exodus story, and the gospel story talking about the Sabbath as an invitation to us. And so in the creation story, God makes everything in 7 days. And in the 6 days, there's morning and evening, but on the seventh day, there's not morning and evening. There's rest. God rests from all he does. In Genesis 2, verse 1, it says, "Thus the heavens and earth were completed in all their vast array. And on the seventh day, God finished the work he'd been doing, so he rested from his work. He blessed the seventh day, called it holy, because he rested." And so you have this introduction to what it's like to be in God's world, a working and a resting and a working and a resting. And then that moves forward into the Exodus story where God sets his people free from Pharaoh. And when they are in the wilderness, he gives the 10 commandments. And one of the commandments calls back to the creation account. Exodus 20, verse 8, "Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you do your work, but on the seventh, this is the Sabbath to the Lord, and you rest on that day." And the Sabbath was celebration and satisfaction, to rest and to be settled and to recognize you are not a machine, you are an image bearer. And we flourish when we live like God lives. And so then that moves into the gospel story where Jesus is introduced to a world that has overly put laws on the Sabbath. There was like 39 new laws. So Jesus starts to say things like, the Sabbath was not made for you to worship it, it was rather made for you to be blessed by it, and I'm the Lord of the Sabbath. And so Jesus comes along and he has 7 healings on the Sabbath. He puts forth a higher ethic of love and communion with God on the Sabbath and with our neighbor. But then ultimately he says, I am the greater Sabbath. And so the author of Hebrews is weaving all of this together to say there's an opportunity in Jesus to find what generations had been resting on the Sabbath day. And the author of Hebrews is saying that's now found in Jesus. So the Sabbath is not commanded in the New Testament. We don't see it after the resurrection, but it is offered to us as a gift. And so if we were to be people that say we want to take the Sabbath, how would we do it? So I tried to give us a quick sequence of what that would look like. So in our culture, it feels like it's work, 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 vacation. The rhythm of the Bible is Sabbath, work, Sabbath, work, Sabbath, work. And the way that you work that into your lives is a 24-hour period where you don't have to do anything. You shouldn't feel rushed and hurried, but rather you should stop, rest, delight, and contemplate. And so this takes work. You have to prepare for the Sabbath. If you're going to start on Saturday night at 6, you need to make sure your emails are sent, your text messages are sent, your house is the way you want it to be, and you should prepare yourself to feel the draw back into work. All of us are drawn back into that, so you're going to have to work against it. And secondly, you welcome the Sabbath. Maybe that's lighting a candle, maybe it's having a meal, maybe it's saying a prayer. It's doing something that says this is different than a day off. This is a day that is to the Lord. A Sabbath meal is a great way to start the Sabbath by having friends over. If you're a single person, inviting your friends over. If you're a family, maybe just having a family meal that feels special. But doing something that says we are entering into the Lord's day and we are going to set it apart special for him, and it's going to feel different today. The key to a healthy Sabbath is just no rushing, like resting, settling, breathing, not being hurried, but allowing yourself to feel the anxieties of your heart and to settle them, allowing yourself to drive in the slow lane, to chew your food, to just take the time to delight and to have fun and to not have pressure and not have chores and not have homework and not have all these things that draw you back into the rush of life, but rather to slow down. And the last 2 things are praying and playing. Praying is just extended time with God, lingering with the Lord, meditating on things, asking your community to come over and not checking your watch the whole time, but being with them in worship. And then playing, like what is What is it that brings you joy? What do you delight in? How can you do things that bring you delight? And if you do all those things in a rhythm, what happens is the Sabbath starts to embed in your soul the reality of the gospel and the rhythm of the gospel. It shows you that in the gospel, you did nothing to achieve your salvation. And on the Sabbath, you did nothing to achieve your identity. And so in our culture, it feels like I work, therefore I am. But in the Sabbath, it's I'm loved, therefore I am. And so these are great reminders for us. And so we invite you to consider the Sabbath, to put it as a part of your spiritual disciplines, and see what the Lord might do in your life. I pray that we would become this kind of people.